My name is Ali. And before I tell you what happened to me in my last year of high school, I need you to promise me something. If anyone ever hands you an old book and tells you it's just words, finish what you start. Because I didn't understand what that meant until 3 of my friends and I were locked underground with something that had already decided which one of us wasn't leaving. This isn't a story I made up to scare you. This happened. And the school is still standing, empty, locked, forgotten, 3 years after they shut it down for good. Let me take you back to the beginning. I was 17, my final year of high school, and instead of spending it with my friends in my own city, in my own room, my parents sent me to live with my grandparents in a small town I barely knew to finish my studies there. I won't lie to you, I hated the idea. A whole year away from everyone I loved in a place where I knew almost no one, but I told myself, this will teach you something. Growing up sometimes means being uncomfortable. I didn't know yet how right and how wrong that thought would turn out to be. The one person I did know in that town was my cousin, Hamza. Same age as me, lived a few streets from my grandparents. We'd always gotten along, the kind of cousins who feel more like brothers when you're forced to spend a summer together. The night before classes started, we were sitting in his house, my uncle's house, and Hamza got quiet. Then he asked me something I didn't expect. "Are you sure you want to study at that school?" I laughed. "Of course. Why, what's wrong with it?" He told me. 2 students found dead, years apart but somehow connected. Nobody was ever arrested, no answers, just a cold case that the whole town still whispered about. And then he said the part that made me actually laugh out loud. "That school is built on a graveyard, Ali. Every hallway, every classroom, we're walking over bodies, and there are things there, things that killed those students." I told him he'd been watching too many movies. Dead people don't hurt anybody, they're dead. That's the whole point of being dead. He didn't laugh with me. The school itself looked the part, I'll give it that. Old stone, narrow hallways, a balcony that ran along the upper floor overlooking a sports stadium built into a lower, sunken level. Almost like the building had been constructed around a pit, the kind of place that feels cold even when the sun is out. But for the first stretch of the year, nothing happened. No ghosts, no shadows, just homework, new faces, and me slowly getting used to being the outsider in every classroom. The only strange thing, and at the time I didn't think much of it, was the girls. Every so often, during a completely ordinary lesson, a girl would just break, screaming, hitting herself. One girl clawed at her own arms until a teacher physically restrained her. When it was over, she couldn't explain what had happened to her. She just said something was doing something to her. Nobody believed it was anything more than stress or attention-seeking or a bad reaction to something. The school didn't investigate. The rumors did the investigating instead. I told myself it was nothing. Teenagers, pressure, nothing more. I was wrong. I just didn't know it yet. It was close to midnight when my phone rang. "Hamza, wake up. Something happened at the school." "You're going to lose your mind." I don't remember getting dressed. I remember running. Our town is small. I reached the school in minutes, and by the time I got there, it was already surrounded. Police lights painting the old stone walls red and blue. A crowd forming at the gates, nobody sure exactly what they were looking at, only that it was bad. 2 students found dead inside the school. I pushed through the crowd close enough to hear 2 officers talking, thinking no one could hear them. "Did you see their eyes?" one said. "How open they were." "Don't remind me," the other answered. "I'm not sleeping tonight." There was a 3rd boy standing near the gate. Adrian. He'd been the closest friend of the 2 students who died, and he'd been with them that night. He'd escaped. But when people crowded around him, begging him to explain what happened, all he did was cry. "I can't say anything," he kept repeating. "I can't." The police took him away for questioning. I went home with no answers, just the image of his face burned into my head. The school shut its doors for the following week. A few days later, I met up with Hamza and 2 friends I'd made since arriving, Adam and Luis. We sat in a small coffee shop that suddenly felt too quiet, and of course, the only thing anyone in that entire town was talking about was what had happened. Hamza leaned in like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. "It wasn't random," he said. "They tried to call something, and once you call it, it doesn't let you leave." I told him that was a rumor, nothing more. Adam agreed with me. Neither of us bought into ghosts, but Hamza and Luis were dead serious. Hamza told us it wasn't the first time either. The earlier cold case, the two students years back, some people said they'd gotten hold of a copy of Shams al-Ma'arif, an old book of forbidden rituals and invocations, and tried to summon something inside that school. I rolled my eyes. "Hamza, you're never going to let these rumors die, are you?" But he had an idea. A dare, really. The next night, after the police cleared out at midnight, the four of us would go into the school ourselves and find out the truth. I told him I'd think about it. I didn't think I'd actually go. Then, while I was lying in bed that night, Hamza called again. I ignored it the first few times, but he wouldn't stop calling, so I finally picked up. His voice was shaking. "Adrian's dead. The boy who had survived. The boy who cried instead of speaking. Gone, less than a full day later." That was the moment something shifted in me. Not fear yet, just a feeling that whatever this was, it wasn't finished. That evening, I went for a walk with my grandfather. He told me, gently but firmly, to be careful, not to do anything foolish. I asked him why. He told me a police officer, one of the men called in the night of the first deaths, had gone down into the school's underground level. He'd picked something up off the floor, and when he looked up, a tall man was standing there watching him. The tall man said only one thing: "It isn't finished, because they didn't finish it." Then the officer collapsed. When he woke up, he couldn't remember what he'd picked up off that floor. My grandfather looked at me for a long moment after he told me that. "Just be careful," he said again, and went inside. I stood in the yard alone for a while after that. It was almost midnight, and I had somewhere to be. I found the three of them waiting outside the gates when I arrived. Hamza, Adam, Luis. We climbed the fence one at a time. Adam kept telling us to wait, that he'd seen something move past one of the windows, a shape climbing along the glass from the inside. Luis and I figured he was trying to prank us, so we ignored him. To prove there was nothing to be scared of, I climbed first, and in the window directly above me, for just a second, I saw a tall figure looking down. Then it was gone. I told myself I imagined it. I didn't stop moving. Once inside, we split into two pairs to cover more ground. Hamza and I went for the underground level, the one beneath the sports stadium, the one my grandfather had just warned me about hours earlier. Adam and Luis took the upper floor, near the balcony. The walk down felt endless. Every step, I had the distinct sense that something was walking exactly one pace behind us. We didn't say it out loud, we just kept moving, the way you do when naming a fear makes it more real. Down in the stadium level, rows of old chairs sat in the dark, lit only by our phone flashlights. Then Hamza froze. "Did you see that?" he whispered. A man, sitting in the chairs, looking right at us. By the time I turned my light toward the seats, nothing. Empty. "We're going back up," I told him. He didn't argue. Upstairs, Adam and Luis hadn't found anything strange either, until Adam held up a single torn page. He said he'd found it wedged in a door that was always locked. Tonight, it was standing open. The page was from Shams al-Ma'arif. We went back to check the door. Nothing behind it. No answers. Just an empty room and a page that shouldn't have existed there. We should have left then. I want you to understand that. We should have left. But I was the one who convinced everyone to stay. I needed to know how those two students had actually died, what had really happened to Adrian to make him escape and then die anyway. Hamza knew the ritual almost by memory. He'd even brought a small candle with him, like he'd been planning this all along. We lit it. We began to read. Nothing happened. We laughed, nervous, relieved laughter, convinced the whole night had been an elaborate joke on ourselves. We started to pack up to leave. That's when I remembered what my grandfather told me. It isn't finished because they didn't finish it. If that was true, If the two students who died had stopped the ritual halfway, then maybe that was the mistake that killed them. I told the others we had to finish it, all the way this time. Hamza's voice changed while we read, lower, slower, almost like he was reciting something none of us could hear underneath the words on the page. We noticed. We kept going anyway. Then the candle went out. I ran. I'm not proud of it, but I ran. I didn't check who was behind me. I didn't care about anything except getting out of that building alive. Then I heard Hamza's voice calling from the underground level. I went back for him. I found him standing there, drenched in sweat, and when I got close enough to see him properly under the phone light, his shirt was soaked in blood. "Whose blood is that?" I asked him. He didn't know. He didn't know his own answer, and that terrified me more than the blood itself. We ran, both of us, not looking back, heading for the second floor where the window, our way out, was waiting for the second floor where the window, our way out, was waiting. We didn't make it that far before something fell past us from above. Adam. He'd fallen from the balcony roof, and standing beside his body in the dark was the tall man, smiling. We kept running for the second floor, and before we reached it, we heard another impact behind us. Lewis. Both of them were gone. In the space of maybe 90 seconds, half of us were dead, and the thing responsible was still somewhere in that building with us, unhurried, patient, smiling like it had all the time in the world. Then Hamza turned toward me, and he came at me like the others had come at him. I begged him. I don't remember the words I used. I only remember that I was one step from the edge of that balcony, certain I was about to become the third body found in that school before sunrise. And then we woke up, all four of us, on the floor of that same school. It had been a dream, or something like a dream. Something that happened to all of us at once, in the same place, in the same order, down to the same details, right after the candle went out. The police were already there when we opened our eyes. Someone had reported lights moving inside a supposedly empty building. We told them everything, as much as we understood of it ourselves. Here's what I believe now, and I need you to sit with this the way I've had to sit with it every night since. We finished the ritual. The two students before us didn't. Adrian didn't. And I think that unfinished ritual is exactly what the tall man meant when he told that police officer it isn't finished because they didn't finish it. I think finishing it is the only reason the four of us walked out of that building that night instead of being carried out. The school shut its doors for good 3 years later. Whatever was still happening inside those walls in the years after us was enough that no one, not the town, not the school board, not a single family, was willing to send another student through those gates again. It still stands there, empty, locked, waiting maybe for someone who doesn't finish what they start. As for me, I sleep with the lights on now, every night. Since that year, I haven't been able to fall asleep in complete darkness. Because somewhere, underneath an old school built on a graveyard, I think something is still keeping count. And I don't ever want to find out what happens to the next person who stops halfway.